Hello everyone. School, uni, work, die. Is that all there is? Here is my take. So, for context, I am 22. I went to school and I don't know what I'm laughing about. Went to school, did my GCSEs, did my A-levels, although it was the year that stuff in the world started to happen, you know what I mean? So I didn't actually do the exams. But got my A-levels. Went to uni, went to Exeter and studied English, and got that degree, and then stayed at Exeter and did my master's in psychology and then got that degree. And now I'm working. I worked in homelessness prevention for 6 months, and now I'm working in an alternative provision school, so like a non-mainstream school, and I started that a couple of weeks ago. And at the same time, I'm still sort of at uni, but I travel to London and it's just once a week. And I'm studying a foundation year currently in psychotherapy and counselling. And in September, if I pass this foundation year, I'll be doing 4 years of a master's in the same thing, basically for psychotherapy and counselling. And then hopefully, once that's done, I'll qualify as a therapist or psychotherapist. Ooh, not the nicest coffee, I'll be honest. Okay, anyway, just made it with a mocha pot, but it's not the best. My fault. So, yeah, I've been thinking about this because I know that, well, lots of young people, I should say, are doing their GCSEs and are doing their A-levels. I've been watching lots of results day videos and things like that, and it's taken me back to like when I was doing that too, and then doing my job at the moment and working in a school. I think about and talking about careers with the kids and what they might want to do, and being at uni. For me, being at uni generally, it makes me think about bad time to drink midway through. It makes me think about the natural path that a lot of people take, and I know that lots of people. Well, I know that not. I don't know if lots of people do, but I know that some people don't go to uni and maybe they start working or they do an apprenticeship. My best mate does an apprenticeship, and then that sort of like transitioned naturally into working, and now he's chartered in like the finance, what's it called, finance field, and he's doing really well for himself. And yeah, so that's just an example, but it makes me think. So I took the normal course and I went to uni, and I'm sure a lot of people, if anyone's watching this and is maybe doing their A-levels or right now like the exams, or even doing their GCSEs and thinking about their options, I think it's so important to make sure that young people know there are other options than just uni, and I feel like this is the case. And I feel like schools, hopefully schools are doing this. I say this is the case, I don't really know, but there's more options than just uni. At the same time, I do think if you're hoping to go into a profession, then these professions will need a degree. At least a lot of them will. So like what I want to go into, becoming a therapist, I need to be studying to do that. Same way if you're becoming a doctor, you need to be studying. But I suppose there are a lot of things that people want to do where maybe you don't need to go to uni. And uni is or well, maybe this shouldn't. Well, no, I think it should be the case, but yes, uni is like getting a degree, but I think there is so much more to it, isn't there? There's the social side and the personal growth side. Think about my own experiences, and how I grew as a person at uni, and the friendships I made, the sort of like activities that I did. Played a lot of I've played football all my life, but joining like a football society, being part of an English society, meeting loads of amazing people, and yeah, there's obviously a lot more to uni than just studying. However, like you go into uni to get a degree. Some people are going to uni to get a degree as a primary thing, but some people are obviously getting to get a degree, but also to enjoy it and like enjoy the other aspects of it. And that's just the scale, I think, of the people that are the majority focus. Like their I can't speak today. Their main focus is getting a degree, and some people their main focus is enjoying the social side and like the uni culture, I suppose. And then I guess that middle ground is working hard enough to get the degree whilst also balancing it with the other aspects of uni. I tried to do that. I think I did fairly well at that. There were times where it was more studying. There was times where it was more like not studying. But generally pretty balanced. Anyway, that's besides the point again. Yeah, I think I'm kind of just thinking about how I don't know when this is the case, but I think a lot of people don't really like their job. And that's a bit of a bold statement, and I might be wrong there, but I just get the impression that there's a lack of fulfillment for a lot of people in what they do. And I think you can see why as well. Lots of people will be getting jobs just to pay the bills, and it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just kind of to make ends meet, and I think we can all understand that. Or people will maybe go into a job which they think they're going to like, and then they don't like it, but then it's very difficult to transition out of that job because of maybe the stability it brings financially and just generally in your life, and it's too much of a risk to try and find something else. Or just generally, the job you're doing doesn't bring you satisfaction, doesn't feel rewarding, but it pays the bills. And I think it's important to touch on the fact that it's not feasible for a lot of people to kind of just leave their job and do something creative, and like creative in the sense of, I don't know, becoming a YouTuber or becoming a writer, becoming an artist, becoming this, that, the other, as their like side thing, which maybe they think, or maybe people think, oh well, just do that and then it will blow up into full-time career and making millions. Like, I don't think that's reality either. I think that these kind of more creative jobs, which might even appear to a lot of us because we might see them on social media or have this idea, this sort of glamorized idea of what they would be like, I don't know whether the reality is going to even be like that either, and how long does it take to actually get there. So I think for myself, so my end goal is becoming a therapist. At the moment, I'm going into my third week in a school, very, very early days, but I do get a satisfaction from it. I do really enjoy it at this early stage. I know that can change, but I do feel like I really enjoy it and I want to be there. Even then, the job isn't going to be feasible long term because it won't bring in enough money for when I need more money for my future, for mine and my girlfriend's future, if we were to have kids, for example, and this sort of thing. That's where there is a need to get a higher paid job, and there's a need to for change. But in terms of like the satisfaction, I feel like I'm very lucky that I have that at the moment. I think that also comes from the fact that I knew that I wanted to do that, and it felt like that was my purpose, and I felt like that for quite a long time before even starting the job, that I knew I wanted to do that, and it's kind of meeting that expectation. But I think what I say, I get the impression that a lot of people just don't really enjoy their job, and when your job is potentially taking up the majority of your life, it is just quite a bleak situation, isn't it? Where, again, when I'm saying a lot of people, I'm generalizing, but this is kind of the impression that I get. I think a lot of people will also be working whatever job it is, maybe not enjoying it, but knowing that they have retirement to come. I don't want to hop onto this sort of don't work to try and enjoy things when you're retired, but I do also really believe that that's not how I want to live, at least living for retirement, living for the weekend. I want to actually, again, it's an idealized world where, of course, we shouldn't do this, but it's easier said than done. But I almost feel like scared to think, and I would be scared if I was just living and getting through the main bulk of my life so that I had enough money and saved enough money for my retirement, because we don't even know if we're going to make it to our retirement. Not to sound too morbid, but I think living for a time which is in the future, and for me, like the very distant future when I retire, when I'm probably going to be in my least active, I don't know, won't have as much going on potentially, and won't be as mobile and as active to enjoy the things that I at least enjoy now and will for the bulk of my life. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'm obviously very young and things change. But yeah, I'm going around in loads of loops. But I think the main thing is, yes, I am on that path of like school, uni, work, die. But I think it's so important to think about how, if you're going to uni, what do you want to get out of uni? Is it that personal development? Is it just that degree? Is it the social side? Is it all of those things? And having that intention to try and get the most out of it. Yeah. And if you're not going to uni, then the same with if you're like going straight into a job or an apprenticeship. It's so hard when you're at 18 or even like 16, if you're deciding when you do A levels and stuff, to know what you want to do at that point. And I think maybe a lot of people make a decision and then 5 years later they're like, oh, well, now I'm a bit older, I saw that was kind of crazy that I had to make that decision at such a young age. But I think, yeah, once you're out of the bubble of uni and into almost like the real world, it's quite an adjustment into working life. And I think when you are in that working life and you don't have that freedom that you have at uni, and you're kind of in, at least in a normal full-time job, you're in that normal routine of working, it can feel quite monotonous. It can feel quite, again, like coming into like the fulfillment aspect. Is this just my life now? These kind of questions coming up. But I think that's where it's like, if you are in a position where you're fortunate enough or you feel comfortable enough to pursue or choose a job which you think you're going to enjoy, maybe sacrificing pay or maybe sacrificing other things, I don't really know, then I think it's important to try and take that. But again, recognizing that for a lot of people, it's not feasible to just quit their job, quit their 9 to 5, or just like change career, or just pursue what they love and sacrifice that job stability they currently have. But I think I feel like if people aren't in a position where they can leave their job currently, or like and get a job that they think they will enjoy, or they're just in a position where they know they're going to stay in that job, not quit, like, don't talk about quitting the job. But if people are in a job that they don't enjoy, but that kind of feels like they have to stay in it long term and they can't change jobs or do whatever. I think that's when it's so important to have other things going on in your lives, your lives, that are going to bring that enjoyment. So that could be as simple as like making a cup of coffee in the morning with a Le Creuset mug. No, not with any mug. I got gifted this. Oh my god, I just dribble. That's disgusting. Sorry. I'm definitely not dribbling or salivating because of how nice the coffee is. Don't worry. Yeah, I got gifted this the Crusoe mug as a leaving gift at my old job, which was lovely. I think I did show you the gifts that I got a while ago. But I think, yeah, it's so important to have hobbies outside of work for if the job you're in isn't giving you that satisfaction, is maybe like pretty miserable for you and taking up such a big chunk of your life, then if it's not feasible to leave that job and find something else, I think it's so important that the hours outside of that, yes, you might have kids to look after, you might have like sort of commitments, which hopefully are going to provide you with a lot of joy anyway, but I understand that that's also going to be difficult sometimes too. But finding time, this is Mike's kind of saying, I would say, his kind of motto maybe, which he says a bit on his videos, but finding time for yourself. And I'd also add to that, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and things like that, and take care, like I always say. But these sort of things, like again, finding time for yourself to do the things that you know bring you satisfaction, bring you joy. It could be playing sports, it could be watching TV, it could be cooking, it could be making coffee, it could be reading, writing, going on a walk, listening to music, meditating, going for a picnic with your partner, your close one, your friends. I guess partner or close one's the same thing. Your kids, your family, whoever it is. Just like finding time, and also just finding time for. I've already said that though. Don't worry. I was going to say find time for just yourself, but a lot of those things can just be for yourself. But yeah, I think the reality is that there are going to be a lot of us that do jobs that we don't like and might have to stay in the jobs that we don't like, at least for a period of time. So then it's really, I think, really prioritizing that time outside of work. Again, there's going to be things that we don't want to do outside of work and commitments that we have, things like that, chores, etc. But at least finding some time for the things that do bring us joy and fulfillment. Because if we don't have them, then it's going to work and hating it, coming home and hating it, and there's no room for any sort of enjoyment in life. And until maybe the idea is, for some people, is, oh well, I don't enjoy it now, but I get to retire soon. But then it's like there hasn't been anything built up in your life to enjoy it when you're retired, because it's just been this bubble of just I don't know, hating life, and maybe not even having things that you enjoy to carry through into retirement. Obviously there might be ideas ideas of things that you can do when you retire, but what's to say that, again, morbid, what's to say that we'll make it there even? This is where this comes in. Seize the day. Because tomorrow isn't guaranteed, is it? And yeah. I think it's finding little bits of happiness every day as well. Even when your job might be really difficult and you might hate it, is the one thing that you can take as a positive from going to work in any way? Even if you really have to dig for it, is there something when you come home or before you go to work that you can enjoy and reflect on these little things, and almost, like, I guess in some ways romanticize it? It's not to like pretend it's something it isn't, but in a way it's having things to look forward to, and knowing that if there is an aspect of your routine as simple as making a coffee in the morning, really try and be present with that and enjoy that and make it into like a little fun thing, that isn't just a monotonous routine, but is actually a special moment, because you know that maybe you won't have many of those special moments in your day because you might hate your job, which is, again, the reality for a lot of people. I've gone in quite a lot of directions in this. I don't know whether it's really what I've wanted to, the angles I wanted to approach it with, but I think what I'm saying is coming from the heart, and that's the important thing. Yeah, and I think in an ideal world, again, so if I come back to people like Simon Squibb, who some of you might have heard of, he talks about chasing your dream, and he does talk about like quitting your job and pursuing your passion. I think that that's not going to be feasible for a lot of people to just quit their job, because you can't. you can, but a lot of people can't do that because they have lots of commitments. For one, paying the bills, like supporting their family, things like that, supporting themselves, and there has to be some kind of, I think there has to be something in place if you're going to do that, whether that's like having enough money saved to be able to do that, or having something that you've already built up to a level where that can be feasible. But I think if people are taking the risk and pursuing their dream, which I think people should do, I think we should do that. But I think we should do that to a degree that there is still stability, because otherwise, what are we left with? The dream might not, like, I'm all for taking risks and pursuing dreams. And for me, doing this YouTube, for example, this is something that I'd like the channel to grow massively, and I'd like to help lots of people through this. I'd like to see how the channel goes and grows when I become a therapist and continue doing that and all of these things, and make money off the channel in the future, of course, and have it as something that I can do as a hobby, but also generate money from in the far, far, far future, because I know that's not. But even if it didn't, I would still love it. I'd still do it as a hobby, as I'm doing now. So I think for me, a big part of my life, big part of my life at the moment is the YouTube, and will continue to be, and it's something that brings me so much joy. So for me, there's no cost to doing this at all. There is no cost. I have to put some time into it, but that's time that I'm allocating to it and I want to put into it. So, and I'm doing this whilst working, whilst having my income, because I'm not generating any income from this, and I won't be for a long time, I don't imagine. And that's obviously absolutely fine, even if I never made money off of it. Cool. But yeah, I think, yeah, when people are pursuing their dreams, I think the best way to do it is for you to have this hobby, whether even if that's like starting a business and hoping to generate money from it. I think it maybe to make it that to improve your chances, increase your chances of it working, you have to throw yourself into it and completely immerse yourself in it. But I don't understand how people can take that risk, because we need money as well. So do you know what I mean? We need money, so we can't just quit our jobs and do that unless we have some kind of fallback. Because things take time to generate money. But I think having it as something that you do on the side whilst working the job, which then you hope to eventually be your main job, your main source of income, things like that, is amazing too. And I think a lot of people should pursue their passions alongside working, if they have time for it, of course, because a lot of people won't have time for that. But even finding time to do a little bit of that, a little bit of that hobby, that thing that they really care about, that isn't their mundane job. I think we all have some time in the day to do that, even if it's 10 minutes. For example, if you are artistic, spending 10 minutes a day on your art. If you want to write a book, spending 10 minutes a day writing or planning or researching. If you want to be a YouTuber, spending 10 minutes doing that a day. If you just want to put some time into put some time into yourself and your personal growth and your self-care and looking after yourselves, 10 minutes a day doing one of those things. That could be reading, that could be meditating, as I've said before, whatever it is. I think we can all improve our lives with these little things, even if it's not these drastic changes of quitting our jobs, changing our jobs, things like that. But that's kind of my take. I don't think so. Again, like, I'm still a uni student, going to uni in London, will be for the next 4.5 years. I very much followed the path of school, uni, work, brackets, still at uni. But I absolutely don't think it's the path for everyone. And I think, as I've said before, people will do school apprenticeship or school work or whatever it is, and just go and succeed. And when I say succeed, I don't just mean make loads of money or get an amazing job. I mean, like, genuinely grow and have that personal growth and life fulfillment, which I think should be a goal for all of us. So maybe to tie it back in, if anyone's still here, to tie it back in to if people are doing their GCSEs and A-levels, I think it can be really important to think about, even at this stage of your life, at a young age, where do you think you want to be in 5 years? That might change over the 5 years. After 5 years, you might think, oh, I didn't want to do that. But the reality of life is that we have to make decisions that we're not always certain on, because we can't always be certain of our decisions. because sometimes we don't have enough time to actually fully plan things, which can be frustrating. But yeah, I think it's important to think, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be in 20 years? You're not going to know what that looks like, but you're going to know what the next few years look like broadly by making some decisions. For example, if you decide to go to uni, you're going to know broadly what the next 3-4 years of your life are going to look like. You're going to be at uni in potentially a new place. You're going to have the ups and downs of uni. You're going to meet new people. You're going to do new things and all this kind of stuff. And if you don't go to uni, you might be doing an apprenticeship, and what does that mean to you? The growth that you'll see through that by learning a skill potentially, and by maturing as a person, by going into that work environment, whatever it is. You might take a gap year. Sorry, I haven't even mentioned that. You might take a gap year. You might go traveling. A lot of people won't be able to do that because it's not financially feasible. It might not be feasible for many reasons, and I also can see that. But for people that are able to do that, what does that look like for you? And what do you want to get out of going on a gap year? Maybe the personal growth aspect of traveling, seeing new places, immersing yourself in new cultures, maturing again as a person, developing your life skills, whatever it is. I think there's just so many options in life and so many ways of finding even small enjoyment in life when we might feel like we're stuck, we might feel like we're burnt out, we might feel like we're lacking direction. I think lacking direction, I don't really know where I was going with that actually. I think even if we're lacking direction, it can be nice to think about how far you've come and to think about how far you're going to go, knowing that you've already come so far. And even if you're younger and maybe you feel like you haven't come far, you have. We're all developing and we're all growing, even if we don't feel like it. Even just kind of getting through life if we're really struggling, and like having those small wins each day and just getting through the hard times and being resilient is in itself growth. And it's developing that resilience and developing that ability to keep fighting against the difficulties you might face. What else? Yeah. So to summarize, probably already summarized. If anyone's still here, wow, incredible. Thank you very much. So yeah, I think if you're doing your GCSEs, good luck. If you're doing your A-levels, good luck. And just know that there are going to be lots of people who are going to support you, regardless of how you're doing, regardless of what you end up doing. And generic comments, if you don't do as well as you would have liked to. I hope that this also kind of shows that there are, from my perspective, even though I've gone down the normal route, there are other options. And you're also gonna, so I went and did English and I learned so much from that, and I got so much from those 3 years of uni. But now I'm trained to be a therapist. I did my English degree and then I switched to a completely different field of doing a conversion 1-year course for a master's in psychology. So you could say that those 3 years of English were redundant in terms of like career progression or like where I'm at now, but I don't see it like that at all. I see it as I've learned so much from that and all the skills that I've learned from that as well, and knowledge and and the whole uni experience generally. But yeah, so you might end up doing a degree that, well, slightly different, but you might end up doing a degree that you wish you hadn't. I don't feel like that. I'm very glad I did mine. But even if you do that, you weren't to know that that was going to happen, and you have to make that decision where you're at now, knowing that your feelings about that decision might change and you might wish that you hadn't, but it felt right at the moment, in that moment, and it might feel right for you now. And I don't think we should make decisions impulsively, but I also think we should trust in our decisions and know that things will work out. Even if things initially don't work out, I believe in the fact that we make our decisions for what feels right for us in a period of time, and if then we end up thinking, oh, I shouldn't have. Well, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Basically, like, I'm kind of maybe too critically saying, like, if you end up doing a degree, for example, and then wish that you hadn't, know that you have probably learnt so much from doing that degree, whether it's like academically, socially, personal skills. So I think what I'm saying is, yes, of course you might regret doing it, but just think when you're making that big decision like going to uni, it is going to be a risk to some extent, because you don't know what that next period of your life is going to look like, and you might be thinking, what if I regret it? But just know that, yes, you might have those feelings after the however many years, that's of course, but know that you're also going to take something from it. And even if taking something from it is having a knock, is it a knockback? What am I saying? Even if it is enduring like the hardships and the adversity and struggling and having setbacks, that's the one. You're going to grow from that as well. You're going to learn from that, and obviously we have to validate the fact that it might suck and it might be awful too, but we will learn from, if you like feel like you've made a mistake, or if maybe you have made a mistake, we'll learn from that, and we'll learn from our decisions. Does that make sense? I hope so. Anyway, nearly coming up to 40 minutes. Mistakes, decisions, but what I mean there generally is we're not going to know the effect of the decisions we make, such as going to uni, such as deciding not to go to uni, such as going for a certain job or leaving a certain job or pursuing a passion. We don't know exactly how that's going to turn out. So I think we have to have confidence in the fact that we have to come to terms with the fact that we don't know how things will work out, but have confidence in the fact that things will work out as they should, even if that is like, which life isn't going to be this linear, although what I've just kind of spoken about is the linear like school, uni, work, but what I mean is it's not looking like that, it's more looking like so when we have setbacks and when we maybe feel uncertain about what we're doing in life, I do think that we will have at least the capacity and the potential to grow and to figure things out for ourselves, even if it takes 20 years to realize, oh, actually, I want to change now, I want to change things, and I want to put myself in a position where I can do that, and maybe take the risk to do that. If, again, weighing up risk versus reward. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there because I feel like I've waffled for 40 minutes. I probably have. So I'm going to call my mum now and have a little catch up, and then I'm going to do some uni work. So I've got a presentation next week on spirituality, which I'm doing with my course mate. So I'm going to plan that watch some football later, and make some food and just chill. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video, whether you're doing your GCSEs, doing your A-levels, at uni. I'm hoping that it can apply to everyone, in a job that you like and a job that you don't like. Whether you're a teenager, in your 20s, in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever it is, I hope that someone can get something out of this. It's just my personal opinion. And I would love to hear people's thoughts on it, whether you agree, disagree, just having a conversation about it, because I'm very open to understanding different people's perspectives, because I'm also, well, one, because I think that's so important, but also I'm learning how my views on things too, and my views on something like this, where I'm just kind of exploring how I feel about things and the world. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, take care, and have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye.